Heroes of Fantasy Football Podcast.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome into another episode of the Heroes of Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host tonight, Matt Hyde, joined by Chris and Rich. Gentlemen, we're heading into week 2. How did your week 1 go? Me and Chris kind of talked about it, but Rich, since you weren't here, how's your week 2? Your week 1, sorry.
Well, my week 1 wasn't too bad, I will say overall, except I did have a bad beat right off the bat. I'm glad about it. We'll get it right out the way. That was actually a loss by 0.5 points. I went into Monday night with Brock Purdy and Brandon Ayuk, and I was 17 points down, or I needed 17 points. And unfortunately, by the end of the game, I was sitting there in shambles due to the fact that Brock Purdy didn't have a great game, as expected, I understand. But I really had no other options, as this is a dynasty league. And at that point, I just had to accept my defeat. So that one was a little bit hard to swallow, but we're on to week 2. As you mentioned, don't panic. Everything will be all right. We take it on the chin and we progress forward. So, that's where I'm at. Other than that, my other teams did great. And, we're rocking and roll, ready for week 2.
Yeah, it's week 2. So again, like in the little PSA video we dropped on our TikTok and YouTube, take a breath. It's all right. We'll figure it out.
Panic.
Follow the show.
Don't listen to him. Panic. Freak out.
Don't do that. But there are
the end of days is coming. Your fantasy season is done.
There are people that are currently panicking, as evidenced by waivers that ran this week. There's a lot of craziness going on with waivers, but as always, our Wednesday night show. So we were recording this Wednesday, September, was it the 10th? 11th, sorry. Math. Days. Hard to do. We're doing this right before, so we're going to drop this in the morning. Week 2, start and sit. So without further ado, I just want to get right into it because we got a lot to discuss today. So we are going to start with the starts of the week. Here we go. All right, Chris, why don't you kick us off with the very first start of the week?
Yeah, sure. So my first start, so last week, I went 1 for 2. Sorry, numbers. I had DK Metcalf and Lamb McConkey. Lamb McConkey was fine. He got my touchdown as I gave you the guarantee. Had DK Metcalf, didn't do too hot. Now, 1 for 2, average, I guess, maybe. So you would probably want to, you're probably saying, okay, Chris is going to do something more realistic. And of course I am. Of course. So you're going to start Lamb McConkey in your lineups week 2 as well. You're going to keep the train going because he's going up against Carolina. 100%. That is a defense, as we have already seen, ready and willing to be feasted on. It's just not worth not starting him at this point. For that fact matter, I think most of the Chargers, like wide receiver 2 as well, you could start. The running backs 100% start, right? Like, feel confident going into this week playing out your Chargers boys. They're going to do fantastic. I don't feel like I have to explain myself too much. So yeah, Lad the Man McConkey is my start number 1.
Let's go. Back-to-back Lad. I know, 2 years ago, I think.
Touchdown guarantee, by the way. Touchdown guarantee. Sorry.
Another touchdown guarantee. All right.
Yep.
We're coming out hot. I hit 50%.
I give them out like candy. They mean nothing to me.
All right. So, Rich, who is your first start this week?
So my first start is Jaden Daniels against the New York Giants. And I mean, it's kind of a leading up to it, a great thing that I've seen so far. I mean, we heard from this offseason that, he was going to have this great rushing of capability. And I'll tell you, we really got to see it on display last week. It looked great. 88 yards overall, and I believe over on 16 attempts. So, I mean, if that's going to be something we're going to see consistently, I definitely can imagine him being a top 10 at the very least, quarterback for the rest of the season. It's hard, really, for me not to think so with that type of rushing capability. I know his passing game can use a little bit of work. I think as the season goes, he's going to get a little more comfortable, shaking out a little bit of the rookiness in him. But he gets the Giants this week, as I mentioned, and I believe that's going to be a good spot for him to kind of get more settled into the game. So overall, I loved what I saw last week. I don't think I'm going to not see it again this week. So he's in all my lineups where I have him. He should be in yours too.
Jaden Daniels last week flashed with the rushing, and him and Anthony Richardson didn't look good for the NFL, like as passers, but for fantasy, those are times you don't care about that. If you're looking for a guy to start, and like you said, the Giants are just they're pretty bad. But also you could say the same thing about the Commanders' defense that just let Baker do whatever he wanted with them. He was able to do anything and he wanted whenever he wanted. So just because it could be fun, any entertaining of Daniel Jones going against this defense as well, or are we just hands off? Okay.
No.
That was a collective shaking of the head. No.
For those of you watching on YouTube, you saw it. For those of you on Spotify, me, Richard just shook her head. It's like, no, absolutely not.
A resounding no from the podcast. Don't start Daniel Jones. Drop him on the waiver wire where he belongs. Alrighty, so I'm going to run in here with my first start of the week, and it's going to be James Cook against Miami Dolphins. Now, similar to my ETN pick last week, I'm going to go with James Cook for week 2. Last week was kind of disappointing if you think about all the hype that was coming into this season, but it was still a pretty decent outing. He's going to continue to get vultured near the goal line because Josh Allen is just that red zone monster that he's been for years now. But again, there's still going to be an opportunity against this Miami Dolphins defense. The offense still has some things to work out, but to me, it's clear that Ray Davis is not going to really cut into his opportunities. James Cook played 61% of the snaps compared to the Ray Davis's 10. So I think this is a week where Cook is going to have to be leaned on because I think the Dolphins might not be able to do as much with Raheem Mostert being rolled out and potentially Devon Achane. He's listed as questionable for tomorrow night. So there's a good shot that James Cook could get a little bit more work than we're expecting for this week. So I'm going to put him in there. I think he scores a touchdown. Not giving the guarantee on this one, but I do think he finds his way to the end zone. I think they're going to get him a touchdown. So James Cook starting with confidence, and he should be amazing. Anything to add on James Cook? You guys like James Cook this year, or are we thinking more or less last year?
Why no guarantee? Why? Why would you tease the audience like that?
Touchdown guarantee, James Cook.
Thank God. I'm such a horrible influence.
For those of you listening, don't give in to peer pressure. But when it comes to fantasy, touchdown guarantees all over.
Perfect.
All right.
What about you, Rich? Anything to add?
Are you talking about me? Am I next up here, or are you asking?
No,
my
I was saying,
opinion
do you
on
want anything to James Cook? Sorry, I kind of stepped in. I don't know if you wanted to say anything about James Cook or if you're good.
Oh, apologies. Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of on the fence. I mean, I was rising on him as the season approached, but after week 1 and watching that Josh Allen is still Josh Allen, it's tough for me to really have any faith in James Cook in being a RB1 for your team. But as an RB2, I'm with it. I mean, obviously it's still early in the season, so we have yet to really see what he's going to do. I'd give it a couple more weeks and see how this all plays out. But yeah, no, I mean, I'm not out on James Cook, that's for sure.
All right, Chris, number 2, who you got?
All right, my start number 2 is Brian Robinson Jr. Up against the Giants. I don't feel like I have to justify this too much. Going to be honest. Same thing with Rich. going up against the Giants, Commanders. He did great last week up against the worst defense. This isn't so. I feel like this is a very no-brainer sort of decision. You likely pick up Brian Robinson sometime later in the draft, and if you're looking for, honestly, at this point he's an RB2. I feel like going into this week at least. Right, you could make the argument for RB1 like on your team, but more than likely no. Like this is like a low end, middle end RB2, most definitely like a high end flex spot on your team, without a doubt in my mind. So I'd be looking to start Brian Robinson on my rosters if I have him. Solely, I mean, if we're looking past the skill, also because he's up against the Giants. What do you guys think?
Personally, I mean, for me, it's I'm not sold on this game being just a bad team versus bad team. I think what we're going to see here is a score on, and score on one side, score on the other side. Kind of a more back and forth, I'd imagine. I think what we saw in week 1 was more just nerves, maybe, from the Giants. They didn't look ready.
I hope so.
So this might just be me being a Giants fan, just trying to talk to myself and feel like everything's okay.
He's trying to talk himself out of hating life right now. I applaud you for trying.
Thank you. It takes a lot, but I'll tell you. Overall, it's great. I mean, I'm gonna go with that. I would definitely say that this is gonna be a good game, and I think there's gonna be a lot of points.
Yeah, I mean, both defenses are really bad. So even if the offenses are okay, there still should be some points. And Brian Robinson looked really good last week. Like watching him, the 4 targets has me pretty excited as well. He's someone that, if you followed the show for any length of time, I was pretty high on Antonio Gibson, mainly because of the targets in the offense, and that kind of blew up in my face, and it turned out to be Brian Robinson just is that guy. Austin Eckler.
In fairness to you, he was good at the beginning.
Yeah, then he just
Antonio Gibson
fumbled the job away. But yeah, I mean, last week 16 points, 56% of snaps. He was the RB12 on the week. So, I mean, 12 rush attempts for 40 yards isn't great, but Tampa Bay does have a decent rush defense, and the Giants obviously don't. So I think this is a smash week. Did you put a touchdown guarantee on this one too? We going 2 for 2? Turning the favor. Just pointing it out.
I know. I'm trying to think.
You think about it. Oh, Rich,
I'm not going to. I will not go with a touchdown guarantee. In fact, I don't think he will. I think he'll carry your team with pure rushing yards alone. I have a feeling they're going to pass more. And do more passing touchdowns this game. I have a feeling. I have a weird feeling. That's how I'm
there's a chance for Terry McLaurin.
I am. Yeah, I'm saying there's a chance for Terry McLaurin, but actually, I'm saying there's a chance. And note this down right now: Luke McCaffrey. Take notes. Take notes. That's all I'll say.
All right, Rich. Number 2, who you got?
My number 2 is Jameson Williams playing against the Bucks this week, the 12th overall pick in the 2022 draft. I think it's been a little bit of a homecoming, a little bit of what we needed in this offense is what I'm trying to get at here. I mean, we saw him obviously get drafted. He got injured. Wasn't really much going on there that season. Started slow last year, but then really, I mean, this is what you can kind of consider as the second-year breakout. He has plenty of weapons, or they have plenty of weapons, I should say, on the Lions. We all know that, between Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs, Sam Laporta. These are all, the top names there, all highly drafted players. These are what the defenses, these players are what the defense, in my opinion, are focusing on. So and this allows for Jameson to then, I think, exceed a little bit better. He gets a little bit of the softer coverages due to not getting not drawing the heavy or the cornerback one, or somebody on the backfield that's going to really take away or give him hard pressure. And plus, not for nothing, he's a great athlete. So overall, We saw it on display last week. I love to see the 9 targets. It was a great sign for me for things to come. I believe he's going to be utilized this season, and it might come at the expense of, in my opinion, Laporta, but or Amon Ra. I mean, it might be kind of a back and forth thing, but overall, I think brighter days are ahead for Jameson Williams. So with that, it's going to be good to see. And also, not for nothing, the Bucks don't scare me. I mean, they gave up the fourth amount, most points to wide receivers on average last season as a whole. So I don't think they're that much improved. So yeah, start them up, Jameson Williams.
Yeah, I was encouraged last week too. When you said who it was earlier today, when we were talking pre-show, I was curious what you were going to talk about. One of the things that shout out to Kyle Borgonotti on X. I was looking at his thing today, and if I don't know if you saw the amount of first read targets from this past week. He had 9, which was almost 43% of Jared Goff's first read targets, which is really encouraging. I do think Amon-Ra was a huge bust last week, but I think that was more game script, and he was just taken out. It was just game planning. He just didn't work. There were a couple off throws that he could have come down with if they were placed a little differently. He was getting dragged down a lot. So I do think he's going to be just fine. So if you're thinking Jameson Williams is going to be the new Amon-Ra St. Brown, I think that's a mistake. I think everyone here would agree with that. But I do like Jameson Williams this season. And Dan Campbell kind of did say going into this year, he's going to be utilized. And I know we always heard that, and we're like, yeah, you said that last year. This year, he looked good. He looked the part. So I like that.
I do have one question for you, Richie, regarding this. Where in the lineup is he going? Like, is he low end or wide receiver 2? Is he the flex? Like, is he like the flex if you have issues going on, like you have dealing with the injuries of like Puka Nakua or whatever? Like, what is like this confidence level of slotting him in the lineup?
You know, it's going to take probably another week or two for me to definitely feel more confident on a wide receiver 2 basis. If I have him in a flex right now, I'm feeling good.
Okay.
Nice. All right. So I'm going to go with my second start of the week this week. It's going to be Tank Dell going up against the Chicago Bears. Now, although Stephon Diggs got both of CJ Stroud's touchdowns last week, he's still third on this team in targets. It's the Nico Collins show with Tank Dell joining him on stage. Looking at last week, Tank Dell played 63% of snaps and ran a route on 97% of them. So when he's out on the field, he's running a route. He also had a targets per route run rate of 47% compared to Diggs, who was down at 17%. That number should scare you for Diggs. The 47% rate for Tank Dell is very encouraging. Now, after a solid game coming back from ankle injury last season, he looked really good. He looked like he was fully healed this year. And as the season progresses, I do expect him to get an increased work in the offense and to complement Nico Collins very well. Now, heading into week 2, he goes up against the Bears defense, who, again, don't get me wrong, they did look like they figured out things last week. Part of that was Will Levis and the Tennessee Titans helping them figure things out, but CJ Stroud should also be good enough to take a few shots down the field, and we've already seen Tank Dell be a good enough route runner that I think he can break loose and take one to the house this week. The Texans are a great offense, and because of that, you should just continue to start Tank Dell with absolute confidence. They're only going to get better. Now, I know I threw some shade on Stephon Diggs there. Again, it seems to be my new thing here. But I know, Chris, you're a little higher on Stephon Diggs. Were you encouraged last week by Stephon Diggs catching the 2 touchdowns but only having 3 targets?
Yeah, a lot, actually. Yeah, I said this actually at the beginning of, like, before the season had started. I think when we were talking about this debate as well. And I think I'm definitely not, like, over the hump yet in terms of believing in it. but like give it a couple more weeks of the sort of consistency of like the one or two receivers do really well. Like Nico Collins also had a fantastic week last week. Stephon Diggs is here, right? This is just going to be, and we haven't seen too much of this. This is just the Buccaneers when Tom Brady was there, right? Where you could start Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, or Antonio Brown somewhere in your lineup back when he had those receivers and call it a day, right? This is going to be a similar scenario where Nico Collins is probably going to be like the guy you can confidently start like wide receiver 1 or 2 slot. Sure, Stephon Diggs probably rotates between wide receiver 2 and flex. And I would say that Tank Dell, at least at the current moment, is like only your flex play, personally, until something is proven otherwise. Like if I had to, I would put Tank Dell at my flex. I wouldn't feel the worst about it. I wouldn't be the happiest in the world because I'm not fully convinced, but that's kind of what I feel we're leading up to. And for anyone who has those players, right, you feel fantastic if that's kind of what turns out to be. What about you, Rich?
No, I mean, for me, it's just a matter of the week. I think it's going to be carousel type situation as we go throughout the season. I understand CJ's great, but I don't know if he can support 3 wide receivers yet, as far as in my own opinion. So I think there's going to be an odd man out. One, as far as the 3, you might get this situation where the odd man out happens to catch the touchdown and he still has an all right day. But for me, I think I'm taking this opportunity to sell high on Stephon Diggs while I can.
You should 100% do that because
I agree.
Looking at the underlying statistics from last week, you should be a little scared of Stephon Diggs because we see players all the time go to this. They switch teams, they're aging wide receiver, they hit that cliff, and they're done. Look at Julio Jones. He was good until he was done. So this is that situation. We see this every year. Don't be fooled into thinking Stephon Diggs is going to be that shiny new toy. They shake the rust off, put him through the car wash, and boom, he's good again. He's going to play a role in this offense. Don't get me wrong. But sell him while you can because in a week or two, you're not going to be able to do that. I'm just going to say that.
Yeah, I'm going to disagree. I think we'll do fine this season. Like, I'm not saying he's going to be Stephon Diggs on the Bills. Absolutely not. But he'll be fine. He'll be serviceable. He will be your wide receiver 2 flex position for a decent amount of the year, if not the entire year. If I'm in a dynasty league, I am selling him for as much as I can at this exact moment. I'm not waiting. I'm doing my best. I'm finding whoever is a contender in my league, and I'm going. And I'm not even asking, actually. Like, I'm not going to like the DMs like, hey, you want to? No, I'm setting a trade that I feel like would be like fair in air quotes, and I'm shoving it through, trying to see if how much value I can haul off of Stephon Diggs.
All right, well, we'll disagree. We'll see what. Leave us a comment below. Which side you stand on, because I'm curious to see what everyone else is thinking, because you obviously know where I stand. So, all right, gentlemen, let's dive right into our sits of the week. Alrighty, Chris, let's start us off with your sit of the week.
Yeah, so my sit of the week, unfortunately, I have to pay some retribution from last week, is DK Metcalf. I want to start by saying that I don't think DK Metcalf is bad. I just think this is because of the New England defense, specifically Christian Gonzalez. That's about it. He scares me. He's terrifying. He's really good at football, and I don't really want to deal with that as an owner of DK Metcalf. If I have the option of putting anyone else in there that I feel like confident in, I'm going to. I understand that for some people that might not be possible, and I'm sorry that is the case. In that case, you're going to run him through and you're going to hope and pray that he gets at least like 10 points, right? But if you can afford it, I promise you there's a better chance, like for instance, like Lab McConkey, BTR, who knows? Keon Coleman, honestly, might have a funny week this week. We don't know. I'm more confident on Lab McConkey and BTR than Brian Thomas Jr., by the way, for those of you that don't get the acronym. But yeah, I'd be more confident in those two coming this week than DK Metcalf because I don't want them to go. I don't want him to run into Christian Gonzalez at all.
It makes me sad.
Just a little bit. I know.
Didn't you hate on him last week?
No, I actually started him last week.
Oh, you started him.
Yeah,
Okay.
I started him last week.
Because I was like, I could have swore we talked about DK last
We
week.
did, and I messed up. Like, he did horrible last week because he got, like, cornered out of oblivion, and I just don't want that to happen again. I feel like he needed to bring retribution. But knowing now that I said it, he's going to have, like, the week of weeks. Like, he'll score 50 points for no reason.
He also had Pat Surtain on him last week.
Exactly.
So Pat Surtain's very good. So, if anything, it kind of aids into your point here that, he's going up against a really good corner, and he has already struggled against a good one. So, last week, I'm not taking too much out of last week for as far as season long for DK Metcalf because...
No, not at all.
I mean, we talked about on the overreaction show how they were stopped at the 1 yard line so many times. They just could not get off the 1 yard line. So many safeties, and they just look bad. Now you have Ken Walker, so it's kind of bad news bears all around for the Seahawks right now until things start opening up a little bit, which hopefully is soon, especially for everyone who drafted DK Metcalf or took the shot on a second-year breakout JSN pick later in drafts, like a lot of us did. And I have him in Dynasty. It's been upsetting because Tyler Lockett is just...
I don't have him anywhere. I'm having a great time.
Yeah.
I don't have him anywhere either, but I'll tell you, I mean, I'm interested. I mean, in the upcoming years, he's still only 22 years old. I think he's got plenty of time. And with Tyler Lockett looking like he's on his, kind of last years here, maybe they get a better quarterback if they don't do well, or something of that nature. And I can definitely see brighter days ahead for JSN, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, he was the first drafted wide receiver in his rookie class for a reason. So I'm not giving up hope on him. I think he's going to be great. It's just it's been buried on the depth chart, just bad quarterback play, and coaching's been a little weird. So, Rich, why don't you jump in with your sit of the week?
My sit of the week is going to be Trevor Lawrence going against that Cleveland tough defense. They are at home. The Jags are at home, but I still have some question marks here. As looking at week one, Trevor Lawrence didn't really impress me too much. I don't know if I would chalk it up to just the beginning of the season rust, or whatnot, but I mean, I'm hoping more for what was supposed to be such a prodigy quarterback coming out of college, So it's going to be tough, I'd imagine. Overall, the game itself with against going against the Browns defense. So for now, if I can, I'm trying to sit Trevor Lawrence, especially because I hear there might be a little bit of rain as well. So I don't like that. I'm always trying to stay into the better weather games as much as I can. Not that it factors too much, but a little bit. With everything else going on, Trevor is a sit for me.
Yeah, he was last week did not look good at all. He had that one beautiful throw on the Brian Thomas Jr. Touchdown, which was a thing of beauty, and I think that could happen again. But it was just a weird game script last week too. I mean, they just kept rushing the ball. It was rush after rush after rush. It didn't seem they didn't want to open up the field at all. And I know Gabe Davis had a couple deeper shots. I think he finished with about 60, 70 yards total. But I think better days are ahead. But Cleveland's gonna kind of eat that stuff for breakfast. So they're not gonna let you just run it down their throat. They're gonna make you throw, and he's gonna have trouble. I agree with that. What about you, Chris?
This one pains me a lot to say, but yeah, I'm more on the side of agreeing of sitting Trevor Lawrence this week up against like a better defense of Cleveland, and I mean, it feels so bad to say. I hate saying because I like the team a lot. I like a lot of aspects of it, but just I don't know. I agree. Trevor Lawrence did not look good. I'm hoping that's just growing pains into the season. I'm hoping it's adjusting to perhaps the new pieces they have on offense with Gabe Davis, with Brian Thomas Jr., with Christian Kirk coming off of injury as well. Maybe get the engine rolling a bit. Maybe it's just growing pains of like that. They haven't had time to really go full throttle into everything. I'm hoping that's the case because I look at the offense coming into this year and I expected a little better, and it's still week one. Or going into week 2, I should say. So, I'm not going to say, it's over. But, I'm definitely, this week at least, going up against the Cleveland defense, based on what I see last week, if I have the option of starting any, there's plenty of quarterbacks I'd rather start. Stafford, Baker Mayfield, if you picked them up in waivers this past week. I would rather be starting them over Trevor Lawrence, in my opinion.
Gotcha. So I'm going to sound the alarm here for my sit of the week, and it's going to be the entire Green Bay Packers offense. Mostly I'm talking about Josh Jacobs because a lot of people might think, well, they're going to rush the ball more. It doesn't matter. So they're going up against the Indianapolis Colts. It's going to be – this might be a hot take, I don't know, but – Jordan Love is not playing this week, so you get Malik Willis as your starting quarterback. That should scare you a lot. Now, you think that Jacobs is going to get as much work as he can handle with the offense, which I agree. He's going to get a lot of volume. But how is this offense going to move the ball? There's no way it's going to be able to move the ball that much. Willis has 3 career starts in the NFL, all back in 2022. And he averaged 78 yards passing over those 3 games. 78. Now, for reference, this past week, we just watched Bryce Young throw for 161 real ugly yards. And Caleb Williams, the prodigal son from this draft, threw just over 90. Those are all better. And I just, again, I don't see how this offense is going to be put into a position that they're going to move the ball and allow anyone on this team to be remotely fantasy relevant. I don't really care that Joe Mixon was able to rush for 159 yards against the Colts last week. C.J. Stroud was able to move the offense, and he was able to move it more than 80 yards that Malik Willis probably won't even see. This is a trap play for Jacobs. You're going to want to start him because consensus is going to say start him. Your feeling is going to say I need to start Josh Jacobs because he's the only person that can do anything. I'm avoiding Green Bay like the plague until Jordan Love is back because I'm super nervous. And I love Jaden Reed this year. Last week I took a little mini victory lap because I was on the side of him being the wide receiver 1 for this offense. And man, did it look good. The offense was clicking. And it got snatched away at the last second. So don't start your Packers. Wait this out with Jordan Love. All reports I saw is that he's going to come back this season closer to 3 weeks has been the most recent report, but figure 4 to 6 or so is probably a good baseline. But are you guys interested in starting anyone from the Packers with Malik Willis? Is there any safe person on this team that you'd be okay with starting as a flex?
Probably Josh Jacobs as a flex, I know that you just kind of described all that can go wrong. I get that, but I'd imagine the volume's going to be there. There is the avenue, the possibility of it. I think it's a higher chance than not. I just saw Joe Mixon carve them up. So, Josh Jacobs is a great running back. So I think he might be able to manage somehow. I could see it. I don't know how it's gonna. I don't really believe in it because like you, I also am very out on Malik Willis and his type of offense being ran just from what I've seen him do in the past. But I'm still okay at that point to play Josh Jacobs in the flex.
I'm gonna completely agree. No one else on that team is someone I want to start, but I will start Josh Jacobs in my flex or RB2 slot if I need to. There are some contingencies, however. He is injured right now. He does have a back injury. And he was limited at practice today, which is Wednesday. Now, if he comes out fine Thursday, I am okay with starting him. Maybe even Friday. Sure, that's fine. I'm gonna have to be a bit, I'm gonna have to monitor that to see, and I would recommend all of you monitor that to see if this is something that you actually want to do. Because the last thing you want is a backup quarterback playing with also a guy on a snap count as your starting running back. That's a recipe for disaster. The team will not only lose horribly, but they're also like no fantasy points are going to be gained there for you. But also, I will say, I'm not saying Malik Willis is any good in the slightest. However, there are plenty of examples of backup quarterbacks that do well the first week or two, because what are defenses supposed to do? There is no film. There is no prior history of this past year. They come onto the field and defenses truthfully don't know how to deal with that type of play. It sounds really stupid, but it's true. I'm not going to start any of the wide receivers or tight ends. I will only start Josh Jacobs if, I have the option to and he's healthy. But it might be a little better than I think what Matt is implying. He's over here. Matt's over here. What Matt is implying. But I don't think it's going to be great at all. But I think it's going to be enough to where if Josh Jacobs is playing, he'll get you points.
We'll see. But I'm on the other side, so it's too risky for me. I'm gonna stay away. But we're gonna move into our defensive streamers of the week now. Fitting, pick up the Colts. If you got them, you should play them. And they're probably going to be the number one defense on the week because of Malik Willis. He's not going to be able to do much. And I'm realizing I'm laying this on thicker and thicker, and it's going to look real bad if Malik Willis goes out and throws 300 yards and 4 touchdowns. But I don't see that happening, and I don't think anyone can predict that. If it happens, it's a fluke.
You're right, 400 yards.
Yeah, thank you for the correction.
Yeah, no problem.
But the next one I'm going to look at is the Los Angeles Chargers against the Carolina Panthers. For obvious reasons, you can do whatever you want with them. Houston Texans at the Bears. I thought that one might be interesting. The Texans have a decent defense. I know they allowed a lot for Anthony Richardson last week, but not a lot of it was through the air. So I do think if Caleb Williams struggles a little bit, like we saw last week, they're going to be able to capitalize on it enough to keep them in contention. Jacksonville Jaguars against the Browns, I thought that might be decent just because we've all seen what Deshaun Watson has been doing. I don't think that's good. So Jacksonville should hopefully be able to get some sacks and maybe force some turnovers, or low-scoring affair with the weather, like Rich said. And the Lions against the Bucks. I know the Bucks just lit up the Commanders, but the Lions got a pretty good defense. So I don't know if the Bucks are going to be able to do what they just did against the Lions. I think this game is going to could be a high-scoring game, but I feel like it also could be one of those games where it's, 21-20 kind of deal. Somewhat lower scoring, back and forth, good defenses, grinding it out the whole game. But any of those you prefer over others, except for Indy. I know that one's probably number one.
I mean, definitely the Chargers and the Panthers as well. Personally,
there were two good defenses this week that you could have gotten on waivers. I know I got the Colts on waivers in our league, so hopefully they do great things. I got the Bears last week too, so hopefully
I got the Chargers.
Right.
As I say, I got the Chargers in a bunch of leagues.
Yeah, so you should start those with full confidence because nothing we saw week 1 or previous out of both of those teams shows me anything is going to be different. All right, so now, as always, we're going to go over a couple start-sit decisions that you might have on your team. There's a lot of injuries that we have had to deal with and a couple other, things that popped up. So want to start off with the Detroit Lions and Tampa Bay Buccaneers game. Jared Goff or Tua. You might have this dilemma. Both were drafted late, or one or both could have been sitting on waivers. So if you had to choose one, which one do you want to go with? Rich, we'll start with you.
I think I'm definitely going to. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just like the weapons. I don't think Buffalo scares me very much. Arizona, I mean, Kyler Murray did pretty good against him. I know Goff is good in his own right as well, and he does have the home advantage and all. It's just I don't know. For me, it seems that I just want to wait a little bit more and see, make sure Goff's okay. He didn't really score that many fantasy points, so I think Tua might have a better day out of the two.
Yeah, I'm okay with starting either. I want to make sure that's perfectly clear right now. If I have this choice, I'm happy. I'm confident in Jared Goff's kind of rising back up, and I like Tua. I'm gonna also side with Tua here. I'm gonna agree with Rich. I think they're just more efficient right now. I'll take the waiting end on Jared Goff, but if I have this dilemma, I'm happy about it, and I think you could go either way, and I wouldn't really blame you.
All right, I'm gonna go Tua as well, just because, especially if they're not gonna be able to rush the ball, with Raheem Mostert being out and Devon Chan being somewhat limited, I think that it's gonna aid itself more into the passing game. So I do lean Tua here as well. Justin Herbert or Justin Fields, both battle of the Justins. Herbert's against the Panthers, and Fields is against Denver. This is also presuming that Justin Fields is the starter, which last report was.
Yeah, no, I feel like this is easy Herbert. I mean, we just saw Derek Carr destroy them. So, I mean, I'm going with Justin Herbert.
Oh my god!
And if Derek Carr can do it, anyone can.
Maybe Daniel Jones can. They do play in Germany.
Let me rephrase. If Derek Carr can do it, Daniel Jones still can't.
I completely agree. This is Justin Herbert every day of the week. If 100%, this is no contest.
All right, clean sweep. Now, CMC, we got the news. Achilles tendonitis, could miss extended time, could play this week, most likely not. Where do you rank Jordan Mason in that instance? I just want to get that out here because that's going to be a hot topic. Are you putting him top 12? Are you putting him top 6? Are you being bold? Where do you think he slots in the running back rankings for you?
I'm going to go top anywhere between 18 and 15.
Okay.
I'm gonna go between 8 and 10.
Wow, we're getting even narrower. All right, I guess I have to go with top 7, right? I have to say he's going to be RB7?
Yeah. Now, is this just for the week upcoming or just while he's playing?
While he's playing.
The week upcoming.
Oh, the week upcoming. Okay, well, hold on. That's a little different. Who do they play this week?
Minnesota.
Oh, Minnesota. Okay, hold on. All right, let me retract that. Hold on. Let me reel back in. I thought we were just doing this over the course of a couple weeks here. Okay, a little bit different here. I would go. Yeah, I think top. I'm gonna go 11. I'm gonna go RB 11 this week. I think. The reason why I was low before is because I just assumed defenses would eventually adapt to Mason, and I think Mason's fantastic. But at a certain point, I don't know how good he's going to be. It doesn't look like he has the pass catching supreme ability that McCaffrey has, which is obviously a huge part of what they were doing. But if we're just talking about this the coming week, yeah, I'll go for 11, I guess.
Good. So the next couple guys, let's go real quick. Jerome Ford against the Jacksonville Jaguars, or Aaron Jones against San Francisco. Rich, which one?
Ford over Jones for sure. It's the matchup against Jacksonville versus San Fran, and well as the weather.
All right, Chris.
I completely agree.
All right, I like that as one as well. Neither looked amazing. So, next guy here, George Pickens against the Denver Broncos. He will be matched up with Pat Surtain, most likely, or Xavier Worthy against Cincinnati, the new hotness in KC. Chris, let's start with you. Which one?
This was really close to be quite honest with you, because there's obviously so many ways the ball could be thrown in KC that it makes it a little unreliable for those lower echelon guys on the depth chart to kind of get those points. But I think I'm gonna go with Worthy because Surtain also scares me, just like Gonzalez. Surtain scares me. He's good at football, so I think I'm just gonna go Worthy.
Rich?
Yep, I completely agree. I love what I saw from Worthy last week. The Chiefs are a great offense, and the Carolina Panthers are not at the moment. And yes, Surtain does scare me as well.
Yeah, it's for that. It's basically a volume over. You're choosing volume or you're choosing efficiency and opportunity, which Worthy should have the opportunity. I mean, he didn't do that much last week. I know he scored twice, but he didn't have that many opportunities. So I kind of lean George Pickens a little bit, just because I think the volume might be a little safer. And he can make chunk plays. But again, I feel like Worthy's probably the better play. But I might lean a little bit on George Pickens. Another guy here, Tony Pollard against the Jets or Terry McLaurin against the Giants in the flex position. Again, volume or opportunity? Which one are you thinking? Because Tony Pollard is the guy.
I mean, he's definitely the guy, but if you listen to the reports, I guess they said that they were kind of riding the hot hand and that Spears didn't really get the opportunities that Pollard did, or at least didn't capitalize on the opportunities the way that Pollard did. Let's put it that way. But this one is actually a lot closer to me if we're talking as just a flex consideration, as I do love both of these picks this week. You know, I think we're going to get a better game out of Terry McLaurin, kind of as the lead receiver there, or the wide receiver one on the team is going to complain about not getting the ball. So I'd imagine that his rookie will try to find him this week more so. But again, I do like Tony Pollard, as I just watched Jordan Mason destroy them. So overall, I think I'm gonna go with Tony Pollard just because he's the more, I think, surefire thing here, and I have yet to see a confident throwing passing game from Jaden Daniels.
I'm going to completely agree. I really thought you were going to go McLaurin. I thought we were going to disagree for the first time here, but yeah, I'm going to completely agree. Tony Pollard is definitely the play for me here. I don't dislike McLaurin into the Giants at all, not one bit, but I will take Pollard into that Jets defense that, as you said, Richie, had Mason just run right through the other day. So that's what I'll take.
Career game.
I'm going to disagree with both of you, and I'm actually going to pick Terry McLaurin because I think this is a squeaky wheel game, and he's primed for a good. I almost made him my start of the week. I was very close. Because there's a lot of people.
It's funny you say that because I was going to make Tony Pollard my start of the week.
Wow.
All right, we think alike here.
Okay.
So I guess what we're trying to say is start both of them. If you have the chance, start both. You should be okay. But for me, Terry McLaurin it's a squeaky wheel game. He's going up against a bad defense. Jaden Daniels is now one game in. He kind of works out a little bit of the nerves. I think he'll be a little bit better in the passing game. I know Joe is very discouraged by Jaden Daniels last week, as you could tell in the short we dropped on YouTube. But I think this is a week where he could figure things out. So I'm going to go Terry McLaurin, give you guys some little confidence in him, and start him up. Now, with the tight ends that were dropped this week, we had Jake Ferguson, who's going to be out missing a little bit of time, as well as David Njoku. So waiver wire tight end time. Colby Parkinson against the Arizona Cardinals or Cade Otton against the Detroit Lions. Now, this could be a situation you are in because you had one of those guys. And waiver wire tight ends are not very fun to deal with. So you had to choose one of these. Which guy are you choosing?
Colby Parkinson, if I said that last name correctly. That's who I'm going with. In the absence of Puka Nacua, very clearly they're kind of, Cooper Kupp's obviously the guy, especially with Puka gone, right? But in the absence of the number 2, there is we know there are candidates for that, but I feel like he has an opportunity to slide himself in there maybe, and against Arizona, who may not be the best, this could be an opportunity to kind of rake in on some easy free 10 points.
Tell that to Dalton Kincaid last week because he was a disappointment.
True.
But all right, Rich, which one you going with?
No, I'm with Chris here. It's Colby for me, just for the reason of the vacant targets. They got to go somewhere, and I do imagine they paid him for a reason. So, yeah, Parkinson is my pick.
Alrighty, I'm gonna follow suit and pick Parkinson as well. So that is it. Week 1 in the books, heading to week 2. Want to say thank you for tuning into the show. We really appreciate it. If you could do us a big favor and hit that like button, hit the share button, subscribe to the channel, really helps us out to get the word out there that we're here to help, and we want to help everyone here. So please help us out in helping you out. We want to make more content for you, and the best way to do that is get more views. So anyone has anything else, you can send us a message and we will let you know. We'll be on next week as well, talking about some more waiver wire stuff. So that's going to be our new schedule. Mondays we will be recording waiver wire shows, and Wednesdays are typical start sit. And there might be some other fun shows up in the docks too. So we'll have to plan that out. So stay tuned. All right, gentlemen, I think that's it. Let's head out of here. Enjoy week 2, everyone. Good luck. So long.
See ya.
Goodbye.
Thank you again for tuning in to another episode of the Heroes of Fantasy Football podcast. Follow us on Twitter at TheHeroesFF.